as I say.
So Anne, how does that work with like the Marriott cases? Because you know some of the Marriott cases come through and the victim doesn't know they're being discussed, especially with some of the police referrals where there's been 3 police call-outs, so they're not considered to be high risk by the police, therefore they haven't had contact with a DV caseworker, or you know some of the cases where initial contact's been made but been unable to make further contact, and then like you hear things that would concern you at Marriott.
But I think depending on the level of concern for the child, we would say at Marriott, whoever's presented the case, we'd say, right, you need to go back to the family, we have concerns and you need to let them know that this has been discussed, you know, social workers heard that.
And then get the permission to...
Yeah.
And what happens if that family says no?
Yeah.
And I should say, people think, I say people not you don't, but there is a belief that if you've got social worker involved, that we can make families do X, Y, and Z. We can't. There are cases where children go to conference on child protection plans, parents say, actually, I don't care what you want to do, you're not coming near mine, don't even bother turning up. Children aren't seen, social worker can't get in, you can take legal advice, they say threshold is not met for care proceedings, and there is nothing that we can do. You know, we're not the magic fix it all and sort it. You know, parents can rightly say go away, and unless you, at the end of the day, you've got grounds to actually say, right, we're so concerned that we're going to remove your children. But what I would say with that is that courts now will not allow children to be removed unless there is immediate evidential risk of harm to that child now. So if you're talking about accumulation of concerns, like ongoing DV, neglect, very rarely can we get children out now at an initial court hearing because it's not acute and it's not now. So, you know, courts are shifting as well. So I don't want to say you to think, oh, there's no point in doing any of it, because there is. But I just think we can often be seen to be the, you know, we can sort it.
And I think it's the same with us, as much as we get that to support that person to that abusive relationship. They're not going to. And all we can do is address the concerns of the children and take a step back and say it's not their time.
But I also think, having listened to the end, you were talking about the 16-year-old lad who played had Kesman. If that's 16, he may well be a child legally, but we have absolutely no power. If he doesn't want to come and see someone, he doesn't want to see someone, there is nothing we can do about it. And that, you know, and they're getting younger and younger from that, you know, 13, 14.
When we've had visits to children, I think on an IA level, haven't we? Where actually, as we've gone to the house, they've seen the social, and they're out the back window and down the road. They have no intention of meeting with us at all, and there's nothing that we can do. It's like the parents who say, actually, you know, I can't cope with this child. I want you to come and remove. We can't physically remove anybody from anywhere, or place my child. I don't want them. I can't cope. They keep absconding. The behaviour's dreadful. Want them in foster care. Foster care isn't again the magic pill. Because children, if they're going to run, will run, they will behave exactly as they've behaved at home. And it's almost sometimes you think actually that you have to say we've done the best we can try and support, we'll continue to offer, but actually sometimes we can't make the changes that we would want to really, which is very sad, but I think there has to be an air of realism really about what we can actually do. Absolutely. So I'll probably blind you, I thought I was going to retire. Sorry, did I talk at you too much?
No, it's really good. And I think those forms, that would be great for us.
What would you rather, paper or electronic?
Electronic.
Who should I send?
Greener.
Yeah, and then you can email them out so you know what to do. Yeah, just do it, but
Gives a high life to the world. We don't have a very good insight. It just gives us insight Thank you, Anne. That's brilliant. Thank you. Okay, Gina, how long have we got? Just 1 minute. Sorry? 10 minutes. 10. We can stretch, yeah. What, how many you can get in? Yeah. What? hobbies and stuff.
Oh, hang on, yeah, that's all.
Oh, but now. Okay, so we're going to hear from Jenny now.
I was based in the Pro Assessment Team just for 5 years, and I do the bit when Anne's passed it down the line and we've identified that a child's either section 17 or section 57. If there's anything that anybody doesn't understand or they don't know what it means, or and then it comes to me. And I think Mel wanted to talk about the kind of the timelines for processes, and I know that you've got a Child Protection Conference chair, right, to talk about the timelines. Now we do have legislated times for completion of assessments. They're not always stuck to, you know, families are individuals and sometimes things don't fit nicely into nice little tick boxes. But by rights, an initial assessment should be completed within 10 working days from the point that it's been referred. So the point that they receive it here is day one. It then's got to go all the way through, and you know, and often we won't get it in the referral assessment team until about day 4 or 5.
Does that include weekends or work days?
No, it's working days. It's working days, but it doesn't take into account bank holidays randomly.
Oh right.
Which is a bit of a pain. Yeah, that's a performance thing that they've never managed to resolve. But hey. So often from the point that it lands on my desk, we have 4 or 5 days to try and get hold of the parent. You know, if they're working parents and we need to see children there at school, we've got to try and squeeze that in. And bearing in mind the numbers that are coming through, we generally hold about 25 cases at any one time to try and juggle that. I mean, I know Anne talked about what you need on the form. For me, it's phone numbers every time, because, and they're often the thing that's missing. Because if I have to write to a parent to say, I need, and you've got to be allowed for the dear old Royal Mail, my assessment's run out of time before I even got there. So phone numbers are an absolute must, and if we can have mobiles as well as landlines. And just to be really careful, we've got all the numbers and all of those kinds of things. We spend a lot of time with 1 digit wrong or 1 digit missing, and that's things like that that take up our time, and that it's just very infuriating. So that's an initial assessment. If we have completed 3 initial assessments on a family within a year, we will take the decision to automatically go straight to a core assessment. Core assessment is the dimensions are the same, but you spend a lot more time doing it. It's a 35 working day assessment, so 7 weeks. And in that time you will spend, on average, probably anywhere between 8 and 12 visits to a family, some of which will need to be the children on their own, and it may be that you don't see them at home. We will go and see them in schools, we will go and meet them after school, we'll go and take them for an ice cream, anything, and depending on the nature of the case, and often in domestic violence cases, actually being away from family homes far nicer for them, and they feel far safer talking about what's going on when, you know, they're in the park with us. You know, and we have to develop all sorts of football skills and things like that. But it's amazing what you can get out of a small child when you're pretending to be a goalie. And at that point, during the core assessment, we generally know quite early on, but we will make the decision about whether a child is at risk of significant harm. That's the point at which we decide the child needs to be looked at under child protection procedures, and that's the point that we will book a conference. So you have 35 working days to do it, in theory, but generally you will know within the first couple of visits which direction this is heading.
And what are you looking for, Jenny? What are you looking for in those
Significant
visits?
harm is a really difficult term, because everyone in this room will have and there is no definition of it. That's it. That's all we've got to work with, and it's a legal term. You know, we have 4 categories of abuse as far as children are concerned: emotional, neglect, physical, and sexual. And we have to look at significant harm in terms of any of those, or you know, any number of those categories. And it's whether that child's life is going to be impaired by the actions that are being done to them. So they're not going to achieve their full potential, whether it be educationally or emotionally or something. And there is a very fine line between children in need, because the legal definition of children in need is a child who won't reach their full potential because of something else. So actually, there's a very fine line between children in need and children at risk of significant harm. And you have to look at a number of factors. Unless you have a child with a very obvious injury, or a child who's made clear disclosure of sexual abuse, which they're very, very rare, you have to look at the contextual factors of, and domestic violence is probably the biggest. along with mental health. And within domestic violence, of course, there's physical harm, but it's significantly emotional harm, continued exposure. You know, if you then couple that with frequent alcohol misuse, or substance misuse, then you have neglect of their physical needs, all their basic care needs. And it's this great big package all rolled up into one, and they tick every single box. And that's why, you know, making sure that domestic violence referrals are really clear. I think, and Anne didn't talk about it, but for me, what I really also want to know is what the strengths are. Because for every risk, there is likely to be some strength. It may not be a permanent strength, but there may be a grandma, or, you know, you were talking about the extended family. We may not have access to them at the moment because a mum or a parent may be isolated from them, but it's to know that they're there, and that means that we have a resource that's not us, that we can then tap into. We also, you know, children have strengths, particularly the older ones, and they are resilient, you know, particularly if they've had to witness domestic violence for a number of years. Rightly or wrongly, they have developed an emotional resilience to it. But we need to know that too, because we need to be weighing things up, and I think so much focus is on the risks, but we need to know the strengths as well. I know those forms don't have nice little boxes for risks and strengths, but it's as simple as doing a little table of risks and strengths, and to really consider that, because there will be some, for sure. What else you want to know?
I think, so, do you decide it goes to conference? You as in you?
Well, it has to be in consultation with the manager.
Right, okay.
But, you know, at the different levels of social worker with different levels of experience, as a senior practitioner, I will know when one's going, I can book my own conferences, and that's fine. But a newly qualified social worker, even a social worker maybe with 2 or 3 years experience, everything has to be signed off by a manager.
Can I just ask, for it to go to core assessment, has there got to be, can it be in a quicker time? So if you went to the initial assessment and you thought it had to go to conference, then would a core assessment?
You have to do a core assessment, even if it is a bit of a paperwork exercise.
So it wouldn't have to be
a child protection investigation, which is section 47, 2 bits of paperwork are a core assessment, and the record of outcome, which is the record of your decisions at the end of it. And that's what a child protection investigation involves. As far as paperwork is concerned, you can do
so you might
core
not even
assessments.
have the initial assessment first, it might go straight to
Sometimes we completely. If we've got a child with an injury, we completely skip initial assessments. It's pointless. But you can do core assessments. You can do core assessments on 2 visits. It really does depend on the nature of the referral and the kind of concerns that you have. As Anne said, we've got a whole tranche of registered sex offenders. Probation, bless them, have decided to audit and suddenly realise that there's all these sex offenders with no licence conditions who are having contact with wider family. Now, and suddenly, so we've got, I mean, I did 14 children in my family last week. Now, in theory, it legally has to have a child protection investigation. So I have to do the paperwork for a child protection investigation for every single one of those children. But actually, I only do 1 visit, because you go out and the family say, yeah, we won't have anything to do with him. And they're not having anything to do with him. We've not seen him for 3 years. So as opposed to, writing 15 pages of a core assessment, it's just 1 sentence in each box. So there's flexibility is dependent. But the more thorough your core assessment, the better chance that you have when you go to conference, or if you're stepping it down to a CAF, which is the other option at the end. We very rarely just close them, because I think if the concerns are high enough to have got to a core assessment, the chances are there's an issue on some level. That the more thorough we are at that point, the better the work is, the better the planning can then be for that child afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. So any more questions? No? I could it'd be loaded with them.
It's that point in the afternoon.
No, I just think you've explained it so
Yeah,
clearly.
that's what it boils down to.
So is it after, maybe this is something that David Stewart talked to us about, so I don't want to cross over on that, but when you get past that